So good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are again on last chapter of book 4, which is Future Joys and Sorrows. And we are on question 1009, which is a long question that has communications from St. Augustine, Lamennais, Plato, and Paul the Apostle. And we went through each of those messages last week. And sorry, I muted myself by mistake here. And we are now in the comments by Kardec. There are very long comments on this chapter by Kardec, so I'll ask Philip to read the comments and then we go over them a little bit further, okay?
People are inspired to do good and avoid vices if they feel that this course of action will be rewarding one and keep them from being punished. However, if the threatened punishment appears under conditions that are contrary to reason, not only does it fail its goal, but it also leads people to reject everything, both the form and the basis. When the notion of a future is introduced in a rational way, people do not reject it. Spiritism provides this reasonable explanation. The principle of eternal punishment makes the Supreme Being a merciless and cruel God. Is it rational to say that a ruler is very kind, compassionate, and tolerant, and wants nothing but happiness for everyone when this ruler is jealous, vindictive, relentlessly severe, and punishes 3/4 of the subjects with the most horrific torture for any offense or violation of the laws, even when the violations are the result of simple ignorance of the laws they violate? Is it not a blatant contradiction? Could God be less moral or virtuous than human beings? The doctrine has another contradiction. Since God knows all things, God must have known in creating a spirit that it would disobey divine laws. Therefore, spirits must have been destined to eternal unhappiness and arrogance. Is this rational? With the principle of relative punishment, on the contrary, everything is justified. When God created a given spirit, undoubtedly it was known that it would do wrong. However, it was in God's design to provide the means for the spirit to become enlightened. The spirit must atone for its sins and make amends for its wrongdoings, so that it may be more firmly set in goodness. Therefore, the door to hope is never closed, and the moment when a spirit is delivered from suffering depends on the effort it channels into achieving this goal. This is something that all can understand, and the more notorious logic can accept. If the concept of future punishment were presented in this manner, there would be far fewer skeptics. We often use the word eternal figuratively to designate a long period with no fixed end, even though we know that the end, of course, comes at some point in time. For instance, there are the eternal snows of mountain peaks and polar caps, although we know that our planet will end one day, and the features of those regions may change due to the natural displacement of the Earth's axis or by some natural disaster. In this specific case, eternal does not signify that which is infinitely everlasting. When we are sick or suffering from a long-term illness, we say that our suffering is eternal. Is it strange then that for spirits who have suffered for years, centuries, or millennia to express themselves in the same manner, we must not forget that their inferiority prevents them from seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and they consequently think that they are destined to suffer forever. This belief is a part of their atonement. We borrowed our belief in fire, burning ovens, and torture from the pagan Tartarus. This belief has been completely abandoned by many of the most eminent theologians today. Only in certain schools are such fear-mongering allegories still presented as literal truths by some individuals who are more overzealous than enlightened. This belief has been completely abandoned by many of the most eminent theologians today. Okay, I'm repeating.
This is all very wrong.
This is all very wrong because young imaginations, once past the terror, will most likely become skeptics. Currently, theology admits that the word fire is used figuratively in the Bible, and it is to be understood as meaning moral fire, people who have observed life and suffering beyond the grave, as communicating spirits explain it. Understand how this suffering can be excruciating, although it is not of a physical nature. As for the duration of the suffering, many theologians are starting to acknowledge the restriction indicated above and think,
Sorry.
where are we now? And think that the word eternal may refer to the principle of sorrow itself as the consequence of an absolute law and not its application to each individual. The day religion accepts this interpretation and other concepts as products of enlightenment, the vast numbers of people who have been led astray will have their faith in God restored.
So Kardec is commenting here what was happening at the time there in at the time of the publication of the Spirit's book, middle of the 19th century, and that we still see up to today, which is the irrational teachings or the non-rational teachings of the religions that reaches a point that they no longer scare people and end up making people move away from religions, right? That people are afraid of the unknown in general, and if this unknown is told by the church to be hell or eternal suffering, some people will keep this fear and carry this fear with them and try to lead a good life as much as possible to avoid punishment, this eternal punishment or whatever they believe it is. But for a lot of people, this does not make sense, right? Because it lacks rationality. And then Kardec tells us that Spiritism provides a reasonable explanation, right? When Spiritism brings the concept of, first, that heaven and hell do not exist as physical places, that they are states of mind, that our punishment, which is not even punishment according to Spiritism, is just a consequence of our actions. Whenever we deviate from the natural laws, we are going to face the consequences of our misguided actions, which it's called punishment because it was easier to understand at the time. And then when Kardec brought Spiritism already had so many new things that to add some of the things as the law of cause and consequence that exists, but that God doesn't punish directly. You know, it ended up leaving that sense, that notion, because he knew that we will eventually learn from it and learn how to move away from it. But again, going on the rational path, right? Kardec says, if a ruler is kind, compassionate, and tolerant, and wants nothing but happiness for everyone, which is our creator, does it make sense that this ruler becomes jealous, vindictive, and punishes the subjects with the horrific tortures for any offense or violation of the laws, even if the violations are a result of simple ignorance of the laws they violate, right? Again, reason tells us that it doesn't make sense. So if it doesn't make sense and you don't know a better explanation, you move away from it, right? A lot of people today go to churches as a social commitment, or out of respect for the community they live in, or the family that asks them to go, than because they really believe what they find in the churches. Spiritism tries to bring us logic, reason, and rational explanations. God being perfect cannot be less moral and virtuous than we imperfect human beings, right? Again, it's logic, absolute logic, right? So if God is perfect, God cannot be angry, cannot be jealous, cannot be any of these human imperfections, because God is all perfection. So if it's all perfection, God doesn't get angry at us, right? When we deviate from the natural law, because God, being eternal, being created the perfect laws, God has created all the causes and consequences. And that's the natural process. And billions of spirits that existed before us went through the path to become a perfect spirit, and billions of spirits after us are going to go the same path as we are on the same path. And, doesn't make sense that some are treated different than others. We are all treated the same. The natural laws are perfect, and it's valid for all of us. And then Kardec talks, again, another contradiction. God created spirits knowing that, created eventually what will become a spirit, but from the molecule from the atom to the archangel, right? As it's said in Spiritism. So God creates the atoms knowing that we will become a perfect spirit one day, and going through all the evolution path that we have to go through. So it doesn't make sense that God would get upset, angry, or anything, or punish, right? So then Kardec talks about, that when God creates a spirit, knows that he has a path, and that will have to make mistakes and face the consequences for the mistakes. The trials and atonements, on which is our path of evolution. Atonements, corrections for mistakes we made, trials, opportunities to learn from challenging situations to help us progress. Again, it's all very logic, all right? But I was watching a Spiritist live today, Q&A Spiritist live, and this lady wrote the comment section. I have a lot of problem understanding the free will, the concept of free will. I didn't choose to be a spirit. So if I didn't choose to be a spirit, I didn't have a free will. So why do I have free will now? She just posed the question like that. And I was thinking, wow, so we have a long way to go until we fully get our head around this, right? And I seen people asking this question, right? I didn't choose people that do not understand the concept of reincarnation and that you are placed in the place that it's best fitted for you to evolve. You see a lot of people saying, "I didn't ask to be born," right? Which is partially true, right? For imperfect spirits, they don't know that they are going to reincarnate, and they didn't ask, in a sense. But nothing happens by chance. You're not born in a place that you shouldn't be. But again, we need to always try to rationalize our thoughts and our understanding of the teachings that Spiritism brings to us. And understanding that we are not going to be able to understand everything. What we cannot understand or cannot accept, we put aside and wait until we evolve more, and we'll be able to understand and learn. We are 10 questions from the end of the Spirits book. We've been studying it for, I think it's the 8th time, right? Almost 7th or 8th time. And every week I find something new there. And I find something that calls my attention and gives me an opportunity to learn something different. So, we have to be patient and understand that the learning process, it's step by step, right? You cannot, like I almost like to say, right? You cannot learn calculus if you don't know how to add or subtract. You first need to start from the beginning. So Spiritism gives us the guidelines, give us the tools for us to learn, but we need to follow our own steps and our own speed. Kardec mentions that we borrow our belief in fire, burning ovens, and torture from the pagan Tartarus. It's important to understand what is Tartarus. It's here in the note. In Greek mythology, Tartarus is a place in the underworld, even lower than Hades. Hades is hell in the Greek mythology, is where evil spirits go. In Roman mythology, Tartarus is the place where enemies of the gods are sent. Virgil describes it as in the Aeneid as a gigantic place, the deepest part of the underworld, surrounded by the flaming river Phlegethon and triple walls to prevent its tormented captives from escaping. Again, we inferior spirits are very capable of creating these descriptions of the inferior, the less evolved, the lower zones, because we all been there, right? So it is imprinted in our subconscious experiences we had in the lower zones. And again, when we are suffering in the lower zones, it seems eternal. It seems that lasts forever. So to bring the belief that these lower zones last forever and that we are condemned to suffer forever, it's our own ideas that come with us from the subconscious forever. Jesus never mentioned about hell, lower zones, nothing like that. He talked about being with the Father, our potential to learn, to evolve, and to be, you can do everything that I do and more, right? Which is, it's one of the things that took me a while to understand, right? And my understanding today, and maybe it's not what Jesus meant, but my understanding today is Jesus incarnated, was not able to fully exercise his abilities as a perfect spirit, right? Because the physical body, even to a perfect spirit imposes limitations. So that's what he meant, and more, which is when we are perfect spirits, right? But again, these notions of hell, eternal fire, things that we read in the Bible, this is our own creations. It's not, it doesn't come from evolved spirits or even from Jesus, right? And Kardec finishes talking about communicating spirits that come explain their suffering beyond the grave. And some of them describe how this suffering can be excruciating, and it's not of physical nature. We discussed this not long ago. These moral sufferings are sometimes much more difficult than the physical sufferings, right? Because the physical suffering will have an end when the physical body dies. The moral suffering will also have an end, but it can last much longer depending on how we address it and deal with it. And then he finishes by saying that the day religion accepts the interpretation of this this temporary punishment, cause and consequence, and other concepts as they enlighten themselves, the vast number of people who have been led astray will have their faith in God restored. We have a lot of people nowadays that say that they believe in God and they don't follow any particular religion because none of the religions make sense to them, or that they believe in the afterlife, and but without it being tied to any specific religion. They call themselves spiritualists without being connected to any religion, which is, you know, these people, what they need is just to find logical explanations for everything spiritual, and Spiritism provides that, but unfortunately, not many people around the world knows about Spiritism. So for us that we have this ability to access this knowledge, it's a privilege. We did something right to be here and to deserve being part of this. Are we going to take advantage of it or not? That's on each one of us, right? Like the same speaker I was watching today, he said, people were asking, of course, about the war, which is always the question nowadays, right? And he said, be careful who you hate or where the places you hate, because that's exactly where you are going to end up in your next incarnation. Try not to hate anyone, because if you hate someone, one person, that's where you're going to be reincarnated with, same family or same relationships. If you hate a place or a country or something like that, or a race or a religion, exactly where you are going to end up, because that's the law of cause and consequence, right? People are asking if the incarnated, those incarnated in Israel today were those that were persecuting Jesus at the time of Jesus, and said, we have 25 billion spirits. Do you think that you know, the same spirits are coming back? No, he said, maybe the spirits incarnated in Israel today are some of the people that live in Germany that were persecuting Jews in the Second World War. That makes more sense, right? Or, you know, and other things related to that. We have to understand that the concept of we don't belong anywhere. We belong to planet Earth at the moment, and the experiences we have to go through here are the best possible experience for us to evolve. And that implies us having to experience whatever we don't like, right? We have a profound distaste for people, races, religions. So let's try to be above that, so we can prepare ourselves for coming back as instructors, assistants, or, I don't think we have the ability to be missionaries, but, to come to do positive work wherever we find ourselves, and not having to face the atonements of things that we are creating for ourselves. Okay? Comments here? Any additional comments? We're done on question 1009. Dani? Yes.
I try to be a teacher.
You are a teacher.
Exactly. Try to be a teacher. Talk about mission.
Maybe you'll come back to a world that pays better the teachers.
Maybe I prefer not to teach. Maybe I'm questioning my choices. But my point was, you keep talking about logic, right? But
Reason.
Other than Spiritism, I think all the other religions, maybe with a few exceptions, when they're based on sacred texts, let's say, let not just put the Bible as an example, because there are other sacred texts used. I see that people don't rely on logic, they rely on the truth.
Faith.
Right. Yeah, I would say the extra step of faith is like there is maybe a logical way of thinking that if it's in the sacred text, it's the truth from God directly. So it is tricky for me to envision like when all this is going to converge into this kind of thinking, the logical thinking, as it's presented here. Would it be like pain as it drives us to try to improve or find an answer, find how to end the pain, or is just
it's going to be
yeah,
it's going to be slow, and it's going to be for a long time. But if you look at how the church in different religions, they already have people inside the churches that go deeper into the studies of spiritual nature. It's just that they don't open it to the general public. Even Judaism, right? You have the Kabbalah, those that study Kabbalah, which has a lot of similarities with Spiritism, but it's just that the majority of them do not accept it, the Jews, and those that study it, they cannot expand to the general believers because they are not interested. But it's there, so we will expand. When you see the Pope, when it was 2 popes ago, saying that heaven and hell are states of mind, you see that the church is moving forward, right? I know in Brazil, there are many priests that study Spiritism, hiding from the general public and from their own bosses, let's say, if we can call that. But they do. Very few of them are out there discussing it. We have Sister Ayla from the Northeast in Brazil that has been having live talks with a lot of spiritists, and even with a couple of evangelical pastors, talking about spiritual nature, right? She's very open to everything that we have in Spiritism. But she continues to be a nun, continues to live in a convent, but discusses this openly. So it's out there. It's just that we want to see a change that will come from day to the next day, and it's going to take generations. It's going to take hundreds of years or decades. I don't know. Depends on but but it's happening. It's just that it happens so slowly that we don't see it. But if you look at what's happening, even in the Muslims, which are a little bit more restricted, they have I forgot what's the name of the equivalent to the Kabbalah and to the more spiritual studies of the church that deals with this more spiritual concepts that Spiritism brings to us. So it's there in every religion. It's just that Spiritism is out in the open. Everyone is able to read everything they want and study everything they want. It's just a matter of wanting to and having, the desire to. In the other religions, it's much harder because it's hidden, still hidden. But it's there, it's happening, and it will happen. But we want to see the results in this incarnation. Unlikely. It's going to take longer than that.
First, no pain. Pain it's not going to take pain to redirect our beliefs or these beliefs. Pain is consequence of wrongdoing, is consequence of causing harm to others. It's not a consequence of what you believe or not. An atheist who practices charity will have a lot less pain than any spiritist that does not practice charity and continue to be selfish and prideful, right? So now, what's going to take is courage to liberate oneself from the dogmas, to be free, to be able to get out of those little boxes that they are placed on. That's what it's going to take. Those who have that courage, they get out. They don't see any alternative of what is presented to them of the idea of God, of the idea of eternal punishment, which is the discussion in this question. They choose not to believe anymore and stay away from everything. Those who get out of the box and are interested, they will find an alternative. Spiritism is one of them. That they will find and they will follow and they'll be satisfied with the answers that we get over here. So one thing is to have the courage to question and look for answers. And that is, I believe, has a lot to do with intellectual progress as well. To be free, intellectually speaking, to not follow dogmas anymore. Because the greatest problem is the dogmas, as Ron was saying, those religions that go outside of their own dogmas, but in secret. So at the point that those religions start to eliminate those dogmas, they are no longer compatible with the intellectual development of humans, then it will be much easier to eliminate those wrong concepts like the ones that we study now, eternal punishment.
Yeah. And one thing very important also in this discussion, I remember talking to someone in a group discussion and talking about Sister Ayla, and someone asked, why does she continue to be a nun and doesn't leave the church and becomes a spiritist or something like that? And the answer, someone mentioned an answer that Chico gave for a different case a long time ago. It's much more important that she stays there where she is, where she's going to be able to make a difference, than to come out of it and become and be one more spiritist, right? We have enough spiritists to discuss, to teach and everything. So if she brings the eternal truths, the real truths to inside the church and are able to convince or to teach, not convince, we cannot convince anyone, to teach couple of other nuns there that start to study different concepts, she's doing a better job than many others that leave everything behind or leave their faith behind. So it's important to have these people inside the religions, these people that know more, that can make a difference there. Okay. Right? Can we move? Should we move on? Resurrection of the body. That's a good one.
Does the resurrection of the body signify reincarnation as now taught by spirits? How could it be anything else? This expression and many others only appear to be irrational when people take them literally, which leads to skepticism. When they are explained rationally, free thinkers accept them easily because they are used to reflection. Free thinkers, perhaps even more so than others, thirst for a future. They want nothing more than to believe, but they cannot acknowledge what science disproves. The doctrine of multiple lives is consistent with God's justice, and it alone explains what is otherwise inexplicable. How can you then doubt that its principle is found in all religions?
Yeah, first we need to understand that the term reincarnation is a term that was coined recently in the 19th century. Some say even that it was coined by Kardec, but I don't have any confirmation of that. But the term resurrection exists since the times long before Jesus, but the meaning of resurrection is coming back to life with the same physical body that you have. When Jesus resurrected, as it's called, meaning Jesus already, the physical body died, and he appeared, materialized himself in front of first of Maria Magdala and the other ladies, and then in the front of the apostles, and then for the famous 500 of Galilee. That was called resurrection. But with the studies we have in Spiritism, we know that's not resurrection, and that's not reincarnation. That's materialization of a spirit, which is something that Spiritism explains very well what it is and how it's done. But what stayed in history was that Jesus resurrected. And also a couple of the so-called miracles that Jesus performed at his time, right? The most famous one, Lazarus, that was dead for 3 days, and Jesus came and brought him back to life, is called resurrection. Also explained in Spiritism as he was never dead. He was just in a catatonic state. And when Jesus, as a perfect spirit, could see that he was still, the spirit was still incarnated or still connected to the body, he brought it back to life in a sense. There is also the daughter of Jairus, which is another passage that Jesus resurrects her. Again, she was never dead to begin with. In Spiritism, we learn that once the physical body is dead, there is no coming back to it. It's not possible. It goes against science. And again, the concept of death keeps changing. Death of the physical body keeps changing. Separation, discarnation is different from death also. Discarnation is the complete separation of the spirit from its former physical body. Death is the cessation of life in the physical body, which today is done by, what is the latest term that how you confirm that according to science? No more brain activity, right? Yes. So Spiritism brings the concept of reincarnation, meaning that we come to a new life with a different physical body. The spirit is the same. Some Eastern religions believe in this way before even Christianity existed, even before Jesus. The Hindus and the Buddhists. Of course, the concept of reincarnation is different from Spiritism in the sense that, according to them, we can reincarnate as, if we are evil, we can reincarnate as animals, and we know in Spiritism that we move forward. We don't reincarnate in forms that are not more evolved than what we are, or as evolved as we are. But the concept exists. So again, when we think about, we discuss the concept of God, that it can be found everywhere, on the primitive people, on people that never had any contact with others, you find the concept of God. The concept of reincarnation is also found everywhere. Again, you can, the explanations may not be the correct ones or the exact ones, or it may not even fully understand how it works, right? I always say that 30% of Americans believe in reincarnation and 29.9% have no idea how it works, right? So the concept is here. It's just that how the process works, only outside Spiritism is very difficult to find an explanation as clean and as rational as Spiritism. But the concept is there. So the doctrine of multiple lives is consistent with God's justice. That's what Spiritism teaches us, and explains things that are otherwise inexplicable, right? So it can be found in all religions. Again, when you think about the Catholic or the Christians that believe that we are going to wait in heaven, hell or purgatory until the final judgment, and then we all be resurrected, is a deviation from the concept of reincarnation, very strong deviation, but it brings the concept, in a sense, to it, right? So it's out there. It's not an invention of Spiritism. Spiritism didn't create it. It just explained in a way that I haven't found anywhere else. Dr. Ian Stevenson here in North Carolina did a brilliant study and published a book, 2000 Cases of Reincarnation, that he went to prove that 2000 children remember their past life or had marks of their previous life, which are concrete proofs of reincarnation. The other day, someone asked me, well, how can you prove reincarnation? I said, well, Dr. Ian Stevenson proved, unless you don't believe in 2000 cases, right? Because one case you can doubt, but 2000 cases, different cases with all the characteristics of remembering the previous life, having marks of the way they died, right? Scars from bullets, things like that. This proves that reincarnation exists. Now, Dr. Ian Stevenson didn't go beyond the proof that it existed, but the work that he did is an invaluable work done by someone that's not a spiritist. I don't know if he heard about Spiritism in his life. Probably he did, but I'm not sure. But he didn't follow it, and it's out there. It's proved. One of the biggest bestsellers in this country, Many Life, Many Masters by Brian Weiss, published like 20 years ago, talks about reincarnation also, right? Explains reincarnation through his patients. So it's out there. It's just a matter of making sense of it, and Spiritism brings the logic behind it. Okay? Right? Questions? Comments? Yes, Danny.
So when Jesus materialized, people who were witnessing that probably provided the ectoplasm, or he didn't need the ectoplasm?
You need ectoplasm for a materialization, but a spirit, perfect spirit like Jesus, he knows where it is and gets it very easily, right? So yes, there are mediums around that could provide the ectoplasm, because even Jesus again, materialization, you need ectoplasm, or apparition, as Kardec used to call in the Spirit's book, in the Medium's book. For it to appear as a vision that a medium can see and others cannot is not a materialization. Jesus appeared to everyone that was out there could see. When he appeared for the 500 of Galilee, right, that he made his last appearance, all 500 could see him, and we are sure that not all 500 were mediums. So yes, materialization needs ectoplasm. So he grabbed ectoplasm from mediums that were out there, that were for sure were not aware of them being used.
So what's the difference then? There is on the book we are discussing in the book club, Prelude to a Divine Kingdom, there is one passage that talks about the moment that he went through the transfiguration at the top of the mountain, which is not materialization, right? Because he was right there.
He was incarnated, so
yeah. So I don't remember in this book, the Spiritist book, talking about or explaining the transfiguration. Is there an explanation here?
In which book?
The Medium's book.
The Medium's book, yes. Yes, I'm not gonna guess which part it was. There is an explanation that the transfiguration is I'm not gonna say metamorphosis, but it's a changing of the petty spirit in accordance to the mind. It's a change of the petty spirit that will reflect on the physical body. The physical body will be able. A transfiguration is not an absolute change. It's not like the guy who is, I don't know, 80 pounds, blonde, blue eyes, gonna do 180 pounds, dark skin. And the transfiguration for us, and I think I have to make a big differentiation between Jesus and us. That's why this conversation of being a physical phenomenon or anything else, I think leave those terminologies for us, the spirits living the human experience. In the case of Jesus, you have no idea what happened there. To begin with, you don't even know what happened to his body. Nobody can tell what happened to that body so far. It just vanished in the air, that body. Nobody has an answer to what happened to Jesus' body so far. And I think nobody will. Right? So I leave that as something aside. But the transfiguration, it is a transformation of the physical body in response to the transformation of the spiritual body temporarily. But it's not a 180 degrees. It's something subtle for most of us. In the case of Jesus, again, Jesus is a pure spirit.
Yeah, and two things here that are important. When one of the reasons that people talked about the resurrection of Jesus that I forgot to mention is the disappearance of his physical body. They went to the tomb, and the body of Jesus was no longer there. Of course, knowing that a perfect spirit can act on matter, our guess would be that Jesus disintegrated his physical body, not to leave it for people to use it in ways that would not be very very Christ-like, let's say. And the other thing, the transfiguration, actually I was hearing an explanation this week, which is important, right? It happens, as I almost said, the perispirit slightly changes the appearance. It happens when we are incarnated in the
The double etheric.
double etheric, yes, and out layers of the perispirit. It happens on the double etheric. And you know, when I was reading a description of a woman that was her brother was giving a communication, discarnated brother, and she transfigured herself to look like her brother when she was giving the communication, and people around could see the features of her brother. Again, brother and sister have similarities, so it's easier. Those that have seen Divaldo receive Bezerra de Menezes, sometimes he changes his appearance a little bit, slightly, and it takes up the appearance of Dr. Bezerra just slightly. It's not clear. It's not, again, it's not a, as I almost said. Yeah.
If you pay attention, you're here.
Yeah, you have to pay attention, and you have to be comfortable with the idea. Otherwise, you can look and not see anything. But
The voice is very obvious.
yeah, the voice is easier, but the appearance is a little bit more complicated, and not everybody can see. And again, because it has to do also with our prejudices, our ability to see differences, right? We have difficulty to see differences on races that are not ours, right? Many people have, and that's why a lot of the prejudices come by, right? That's why, you know, it's there's a lot of injustice being done with people, with witnesses on crimes, because they see two people of a different race than them, and they think that they are the same, and they are completely different. And of course, this is so it has to do with our ability to see, to understand, and to address the issue. But it's the transfiguration. It happens on the perispirit, like I almost said, on the double etheric, which is the out layer of the perispirit, which is the part that does not go back to the spiritual world. When we discarnate, our perispirit leaves it behind, because it belongs to the planet and to it's part of the physical body. In a way, it's not, but it's more connected to the physical body than to perispirit. Okay.
The way I understood a little bit when in the description of the moment, it felt it. I mean, it seems it's not what you're saying, but like the apostles who were with him could see his spiritual, like his true body, or like the spiritual version of him, like as a perfect spirit. That's how he actually looks like in his I don't know, or close to the light that he is in his celestial place where he is. So the perispirit changes to show that his true way of looking like, or being, or close to it, or no?
So we understand that the only definition that you have in the Spirit book of what spirit is, the spirit without the physical body, is a sparkle of light, right? And we understand that the more evolved the spirit is, more light, more luminosity it has, right? So at that moment, Jesus was able, or chose to, allow his light to shine on its natural state, so to say. And what they call the transfiguration, that moment of the Mount Tabor, the mount, is exactly like, it's the luminosity of Jesus. Let's say if he was on his normal state, sort of, carrying that dense body to help us over here. And that's why they call it the transfiguration. In reality, is that moment in the Jesus allow his luminous to be seen to everyone who was in that moment. And that's why he only picked 3, didn't bring everybody. And that's why he said, don't tell anybody else what you witness here. I don't even know. And again, when you're talking about Jesus, and does everything applies to Jesus as it applies for us? I think from what I understand of transfiguration, yeah, that would be the word, right? But it's eternal, it's a perfect spirit. It still has a perispirit, of course, that every spirit have a perispirit, but you have words, it has almost no density anymore. So it can always express its tremendous luminosity. And that's what happened at that moment.
Yeah. And he was surrounded by Moses and Elijah, right?
Yes.
That's the spirits that were there with him on the transfiguration.
Yeah, from the spiritual world, right? And I don't know if it was John and Andrew or Simon.
The 3 main apostles were there. It was Peter, John, and Matthew. Yeah.
Matthew.
Yes.
And they're like, can you just stay here? Do we really have to go back though?
Yes.
Yeah.
What did he say?
The apostles were saying, can we just stay here forever?
Yeah.
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 Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to.
This is Carol. May I add
Sure.
something?
Sure, sure.
Yeah. And also, apparently, Tibetan yogis and adepts, highly evolved beings, when they disintegrate their physical body, they move into what's called the rainbow body, in which the physicality is zeroed out. But it's been reported and documented that that rainbow body also, it becomes visible. So I don't know if this would be considered the transfiguration as well, but just to kind of be on the same page here, that's also something that could be added, perhaps.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. Yes,
Sure.
again, the different concepts coming from different terminology, different concepts coming from different branches of spirituality, but in the end, the truth is out there.
It's out there.
Everywhere. It's just our explanations, interpretations that may be a little bit sometimes confusing even for ourselves.
Joan, I'm sorry, what is this in relation to, you said this transfiguration, is this from a book? I had to go out from the meeting, so maybe I missed the beginning.
Yeah, Danny was saying that the book that they're studying, the book club, there is a chapter that talks about the transfiguration of Jesus, right? Which chapter is it, Danny, that you just studied? Prelude to the Divine Kingdom?
It's not the one we studied. We studied 16 yesterday.
Yeah.
But maybe chapter 13-ish.
Okay.
I don't remember.
14, 12, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Book is Prelude to the Divine Kingdom by
Okay, thank you.
Paulo Franco and the spirit Amalia Rodriguez.
And no mention of Mary Magdalene in this book, Danny?
I think she's mentioned, yeah. I don't, not in this chapter, but I think she's mentioned some point, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, maybe quickly, yeah. I don't remember. We are not finished yet, so I don't remember everything.
Okay. Thanks, Danny. So next week there is one last question on this resurrection of the body, which is funny enough. It's a question that it's called 1010A on the original version of the Spirit's book, but there is no question 1011. So that's why you see 1010A and between brackets 1011. So it's Kardec missed 1011, and so later versions of the Spirit's book call 1011 what is originally called 1010A. Okay, but we'll be back there next week. So this Saturday we have a lecture by Marcia Trajano, and on the United States Spiritist Federation at 11 a.m. And she is going to talk about freedom from guilt, which is a very good subject for us to always learn more. Okay, this Sunday we have this, that is the 5th Sunday of the month, so we're going to study the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 27. Okay, book club next week, chapter 17. Again, the book is a Prelude to the Divine Kingdom, and we are going to do our final prayer. Carol, please. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you very much, John and Elmo, and thank you, Philip, for reading, and everybody for being here and participating. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks again for the opportunity to be together for our studies of the Spirit's book, the topic being of duration of future atonements and the resurrection of the body. We will have many opportunities to progress and to make amends for our wrongdoings and mistakes. There is no eternal punishment, and Spiritism gives us great tools to learn at our own pace. We can evolve even from the lower zones, step by step toward perfection. Change occurs very slowly, but it is happening. Moral sufferings may be more difficult to endure depending on how they are approached, how they are encountered. The law of cause and consequence will prevail here, there, and everywhere. Heaven and hell are states of mind. As we move forward, we will reincarnate, and our spirit will be associated with a completely new body, with new challenges and triumphs to unfold. We give thanks to our spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us tonight. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, the directors, our counselors, the mediums, the workers, and everybody who is connected and participating. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the spiritual worlds as well as the physical worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and for all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, they may expand, and to be totally protected each hour, day and night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to our family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we go forth and remind ourselves to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, through humility and charity. So be it. And thank you.